You already know the answer. You felt it. That specific sting after a loss, the irritation, the shame, the urge to throw something or just stare at the screen in silence. And here's what's strange. You lost a game, a virtual game, nothing real was destroyed, nobody was hurt, and yet your body responded like something genuinely bad just happened to you. That's not weakness, that's not immaturity, that's your brain doing exactly what it was built to do. And once you understand why, you will never look at gaming the same way again. Here's the first thing most people get wrong. They think losing in a game feels bad because of the game. It doesn't, it feels bad because of you. Because of who you are, what you've invested, and what your brain has silently decided this game represents. The game is just the trigger. The pain is completely real, and it comes from somewhere much deeper. Let's start with something called the ego threat response. Your brain has one core job above everything else: protect your self-image. Not your body, your sense of self. Your belief that you are capable, intelligent, and worthy of respect. And the moment you lose, especially in a competitive game, your brain interprets that as a direct attack on that identity. Researchers have actually measured this. Cortisol, the stress hormone, spikes after competitive losses. The same hormone your ancestors released when facing a predator. Your brain doesn't distinguish between a lion and a ranked emotion. It just sees threat and it reacts. But here's where it gets more interesting. Not everyone reacts the same way. People who have a fixed mindset, who believe their skill is a reflection of who they are as a person, feel losses dramatically harder than people who see skill as something that grows. For a fixed mindset player, losing doesn't mean I made a mistake. It means I'm a mistake. The game became a mirror, and the mirror showed something they didn't want to see. Think about the last time you got genuinely angry after a loss. What was the first thought that came to your mind? Was it actually about the game, or was it something more like, I'm so stupid, I always choke, I'll never be good enough? Those thoughts aren't about the match, those are old wounds just reopened by a new situation. Now add something called sunk cost psychology. You've been playing for 2 hours. You were climbing. You were so close, and then collapse. The pain isn't just about the loss itself, it's about everything you poured in to get there. Time, focus, energy, emotion. Your brain calculates loss based on what you've already invested, not just what you've lost right now. This is why the longer the session, the more devastating a sudden loss feels. You weren't just playing for 20 minutes. You were playing with 2 hours of yourself on the line. And then there's something almost nobody talks about: social exposure. Even in solo games, even when nobody is watching, your brain imagines an audience. It's called imagined social evaluation, and it's a deeply wired human behavior. We evolved in groups where being seen as incompetent had real consequences. Social rejection, loss of status, reduced access to resources. Your brain doesn't know you're alone in your room. It's running the same ancient social simulation it always runs, and in that simulation, that loss just happened in front of people. In multiplayer games, this becomes even more acute. Because you weren't just competing, you were performing. And performance failure in front of others triggers shame, which is a fundamentally different and more painful emotion than guilt. Guilt says, I did something bad. Shame says, I'm something bad. Shame is what makes people go quiet after a bad game, or immediately close the app, or rage in the chat. It's a flight response. The brain wants to disappear. Here's a fact that should genuinely surprise you. Studies on the neuroscience of gaming found that losses activate the same brain regions as social rejection, the anterior cingulate cortex and the insula. These are the same areas that light up when someone tells you they don't want to be your friend, or when someone you love pulls away. We are not exaggerating when we say losing hurts. Neurologically, it is a form of pain, and video games exploit this beautifully and brutally at the same time, because games are designed to make you care. They give you a character you identify with, a rank that represents your value, a team that becomes your tribe. They build stakes out of nothing and then make you feel those stakes as if they were everything. The designers know exactly what they're doing. They need you to feel the loss, so you'll desperately want the win. This is also why people tilt that spiral where one bad game leads to worse decisions in the next isn't about skill dropping. It's about the emotional brain taking control away from the rational brain. When you're tilted, you're not really playing the game anymore. You're emotionally reacting to a perceived threat to your identity. Your decision-making becomes impulsive, aggressive, desperate. You're trying to repair your ego faster than the game allows, and that urgency is exactly what destroys your performance. There's also something called the illusion of control. In competitive games, players consistently overestimate how much their skill determined the outcome of wins and how little it determined losses. Wins feel earned, losses feel unfair. This isn't delusion, it's a standard cognitive bias called the self-serving attribution error. Your brain protects your self-image by crediting yourself for success and blaming external factors for failure. That teammate who didn't play well, the lag, the matchmaking, the character balance. These aren't always excuses, sometimes they're your brain's way of staying intact. But here's the real hidden truth, the one that changes everything once you see it. The reason losing in games hurts so much is because you were genuinely present, you cared, you were fully invested in something, and that's not a flaw. That capacity for emotional presence is the same thing that makes people fall in love, grieve deeply, pursue goals relentlessly, and feel alive. The pain of loss and the depth of investment are two sides of the same coin. You cannot fully protect yourself from the sting of losing without also losing the joy of winning, without also losing the reason to play at all. So the next time you feel that familiar burn after a defeat, before you blame yourself or the game or the team, recognize what's actually happening. Your brain is doing its job. It's protecting something it decided matters, and something matters because you chose to show up and care. That's not a weakness to fix. That's the most human thing about you. The people who never feel the sting of losing aren't stronger, they just stopped caring. And that's a much quieter kind of loss.